Today's meeting is devoted, as was said, to the interfaces between medicine, science, technology, and humanity. The interface that combines all of these is obviously politics. I know of no better candidate to represent that aspect than the Minister of Science and Technology, and I am pleased to call upon the Honorable Rabbi Professor Daniel Hershkowitz.
I guess that, many people would doubt whether humanity is included in politics. But I guess I'm here as the Minister of Science and Technology. But since, with the very interesting program that for this morning, for this day, you're going to hear a lot about science, about technology, about medicine. Naturally, in conferences like this, you hear less about humanity. So I would like to, in my short greetings, would like to focus on humanity. I've been linked to Rambam for many, many years. I think simply because both myself, my wife, and all our 5 children were born here in Rambam Hospital. So I can say that all my life I've been linked to Rambam. I think that besides of the spectacular achievements, both scientific and medical achievements here, I think that indeed one of the very unique characteristics of this place is the warmth, is the humanity, is the friendship that I believe that everyone enjoys here. The Torah says when Jacob speaks about his 4th son, Yehuda, he says, Ulven shinayim mechalav, which translates that his teeth are white of milk. But our sages in the Talmud say, or give another meaning. And they say in Hebrew, Gadol, hamalbin shinav lechavero yoter ma'mashkeu chalav. The one who shows his white teeth to his friend, and showing the white teeth, saying by smiling, is more than giving him milk. Sometimes the medical treatment, the technology used, which is very important, but it is less than the smile that comes with it. And that's the importance of humanity. And we can also study it from the portion of this week, which is the portion of Korach. And our sages say that Korach was who, of course, challenged the leadership of Moses. And our sages say that Korach was a very distinguished person. He was definitely a leader. But the problem is that when you have the skills, but when you lack humanity, then you have nothing. So I'm very pleased to be here today. I welcome all the participants of this important conference. Have a very fruitful day, and I wish this center, this very important center, to keep blooming and forming an example for not only for the state of Israel, but for the whole world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Hershkowitz. You know that you have just a second to rest. Well, with this, we open now the plenary lecture session. And due to time constraints, we will have to cut short our introductory remarks for each of our guest speakers, but you can find their bios in the materials attached. Well, our first plenary guest speaker will be again the Rabbi Professor Daniel Hershkowitz. One can conclude from the topic of the lecture that Professor Hershkowitz believes that medicine and science shape our society. Indeed, the profession of medicine occupies a special place in society, and its messengers, its practitioners, play a unique role in our lives. After all, a physician is likely to be our first and last human contact in life. So, Professor Hershkowitz, How does medicine, science, and education shape our society?
I definitely won't even try to give a whole essay on how they shape our society, but I would rather focus on a few comments on each. And I would like to go for comments that maybe to somehow get away from the trivial comments. For example, how education shape our society. For most people, when they say education, even in politics, they talk about education, but what they really mean is learning. Now, clearly learning is a necessary condition for any advancement of society, but actually, we don't talk much about education. And there is some confusion about the two subjects, because after all, there are two very different subjects. When King Solomon says, which is considered to be, probably the most important say about education, he says, "Chanoch lanar al pi darko, gam ki yazkin lo yasu mimena." You should educate the youngster along his way. And if so, even when he is old, he's going to keep that way. Usually people focus on the first part of this, that the education should be individual, should fit everyone's needs, skills, character. Now, this is clear. But people usually skip the other part. The test for the success of education is not going to be in the grades that boy or that girl achieve in the finals. King Solomon says, "Gam ki yazkin lo yasu mimena." The test is going to be when that person is old. Now, as to the material we study, well, I can testify for myself, but I'm sure that everyone here can testify for him or herself. What we study, we forget. Unless we go back over the stuff. For example, I'm a professor of mathematics. My field of expertise in mathematics is linear algebra. But clearly, in my undergraduate studies, I studied all fields of mathematics, topology and functional analysis and so on. If I had today to take the exam in topology, I have no doubt I would fail. I remember essentially nothing of my stuff because I have never dealt with topology. Things you don't work with, you don't remember. But you do remember one thing. It reminds me of the story of the person who came to seek his rabbi's advice concerning education of his children. He said that he wants his child to reach, to give him a chance that he, the father, didn't have. To become a very distinguished researcher, scientist, rabbi. So the rabbi asked him, what do you do for that? He said, well, what do I do for that? I send him to the best schools. And the rabbi says, and what else? He says, what else? I take as private tutors, lecturers. I take the best professors. The best. Every day he has 2 or 3 such sessions, private lessons with the best professors. And the rabbi says, and what else? I buy for him the latest equipment so he can do the experiments at home. And the rabbi says, and what else? So the person says, Rabbi, what do you mean what else? By what else? So the rabbi say, you know, when do you open a book and read? So the person says, you see, Rabbi, I mean, all this, I said I want to give a chance to my child, but all this costs a fortune. And for that, I have to work very hard. And I leave home for work at 5 or 6 in the morning, come back very late at night, exhausted. I cannot save because I spend all my money on the education of my child. So the rabbi tells him, no, that's a mistake. You spend all your money on the learning, not on the education. Let me tell you how your child, how your son will look like in 20 or 30 years. His children, that is your grandchildren, are going to get the best tutors. They're going to study in the best schools. They're going to study every day at home with the best professors. And your son is going to work very hard to leave home at 5 or 6 in the morning, come back at 10 at night, exhausted. Because what he learned from you is what a father should do for his children. That's the education. The example you show to your son. So usually in our schools we concentrate in learning, and many times we forget the education. The self-example, the example that we show to our children, to our students, and this is at least as important, if not more, because maybe the material, in order to remember, they're going to repeat and to study it again and again. But the picture they see, how you behave, is going to stay with them. So that's my remark concerning education, and I believe that this is the education that shapes the society even more than the learning. And of course, I don't dismiss learning. As to science, by all means, our world looks different from what it looked not only 100 years ago, but only even 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Because science changes our life. And science and the outcome, the technology. Of course, nowadays, I remember that when I was a young soldier in the intelligence, in those days it was, first of all, not allowed to say, it was a state secret, that a certain unit in the intelligence had a computer. It was a state secret. It was then considered to be the supercomputer, 3033 multiple processor of IBM. In a whole large, this one. The computing power nowadays in iPhone is bigger than the computer power of that computer of those days. And of course, this has changed our life dramatically. But as I wanted to say, I want to focus on or make comments which are not as usual. And my comment concerning science is, you see, our world consists of different people, different nations, different religions, different cultures, different habits. And those differences, many times, are the cause and the reason for conflicts. And actually, when we look at the history of our world, after all, it's a history of conflicts. The differences are there, and they will always be there. There are no two persons that are identical. As I just say that the way they don't look alike, they don't think alike. Even in a family, you can't find two persons that really share identical opinions on everything. So the differences are always there. And of course, when there is a difference, it is a potential for tension. The question is how you avoid that tension. how you overcome, how you bridge the gap. One of the prominent rabbis, actually the founder of the chief rabbinate in Israel, was Rav Kook, who lived about 100 years ago. When he referred to the conflict between Joseph and his brothers, when 10 brothers decided first to kill their brother, to kill Joseph, and then later on sold him to be a slave in Egypt, said Rav Kook that actually the whole conflict developed because of four words in Hebrew, in the Torah. And the four words are, Velo yachlu dabro leshalom. And they couldn't speak peace to him. There are differences between people. There are disagreements, sometimes bitter disagreements. The only way to overcome those differences, to bridge those gaps, is by talking. Unfortunately, there is also the language barrier sometimes. But there is one common universal language, and that is the language of science. And when I cooperated with colleagues in China, and I speak no China, and they definitely spoke no Hebrew, and essentially no English, and the same phenomenon I've had with colleagues in Spain. Now, English is picking up there, but I remember days, I was in Spain and I couldn't communicate in English with people there. And all over the world. Yet, when we spoke mathematics, we spoke the very same language. We understood each other. Science is the language that bridges over gaps, over differences. That's, if you want, the language of peace. And that's probably the only language that, when both sides speak, it's a win-win situation. Actually, more than win-win, because not only both sides benefit, but the whole world benefits from that. So by all means, this is shaping our society. And as to medicine, well, here I definitely feel much less qualified than any single person here in the audience. But let me again refer to the fact, not only clear, of course, the trivial things, that medicine improves our quality of life, and quality of life is probably many times more important than any ideology, because we know that when someone is not feeling well, then you feel that you have nothing. But it's not only helping quality of life, as we know, and I know that there are also such examples in this medical center, and as well as other medical centers for Israel. Medicine breaks borders. And sometimes it's the only place that you can find, if there is a serious problem in a neighboring country, even if it's an enemy country, they find a way somehow to get the medical treatment here. And that's another important language of peace that breaks borders. All these three factors, education, science, and medicine, each of which I just provided some comments, they also deal with the main resource that we have. Actually, in Israel, probably it's the only resource. Israel is, as we all know, is very poor natural resource. Now we're talking about the gas findings, although so far it looks more expensive to dig that gas and handle it than buying it elsewhere. Anyhow, Israel is very poor of natural resources. I always, maybe some people here have already heard me that saying that I believe that even the question, the very political question of determining the borders of the state of Israel, I believe it's not political, but it's rather scientific, geological. You see, we live in the Middle East, where everyone has oil except for us. So I say, if you want to know whether a certain place should belong to the state of Israel, all you have to do is to dig. If you find oil, it's not ours. If you don't find, it's ours, right? So could solve many problems. Anyhow, but we do have one important resource, that's the human resource. And indeed, in a miraculous way, against all odds, we have developed here a wonderful society, unbelievable achievements, with no natural resources, having to fight for our very existence along the 62 years of the existence of the State of Israel, with a zero starting point. The population of the State of Israel, when it was established, was of just 600,000 Jews, many of whom were Holocaust survivors, people who just found their way out of Auschwitz and Birkenau. And against all odds, we are now a country that probably relative to its size, is the biggest exporter of science, of technology, of medicine, of agriculture in the world. I mean, it is unbelievable. That's the human resource. That is what is really being shaped by education, by science, by medicine, as well as other derivatives of these factors. So there's much to do, and each of these subjects could have been discussed for a large time, and I wish all of us to excel in all three. And so we can make a much better use of the wonderful resource we have, the human resource. Thank you very much.